Hello everyone and welcome to the lecture number 3 of React Design Patterns. Today we are going to talk about Extensible Style Design Pattern. So after going through this lecture, you will be able to learn what is Extensible Style Design Pattern, the use cases and advantages and disadvantages of this design pattern, key concepts, and also few example implementations. And also at the end, I will go through some design systems like Material UI and Redux UI, and I will show you how they have used simply different ways of the same design pattern on their design systems. Let's get started. If you come across a requirement to change the component style based on the state value, prop values, or based on a theme variable, you can follow this extensible style design pattern. Instead of applying style directly to the component, you can add dynamic styles based on your needs by following this extensible style design pattern. What is extensible style design pattern? So it allows the creation of React components with customizable styles. And also it's used to handle component styles in a flexible or else in a dynamic manner. As I'm always saying, this is not the only design pattern that you can use to follow dynamic styles. This is one of the design patterns that you can follow based on your requirement in your components or in your project. When to use this design pattern? In complex systems, when you have to share the styles across a large set of components, or when you have to use dynamic styles, you can use this design pattern. So if you go through some of the use cases, you can see if you want to add theming support for your system, you can follow this design pattern. And if you are building a component library or a design system, so when building a reusable component library such as Material UI or Redux UI, you have to follow this kind of design pattern. In the below you can see a code sample where you have to pass different set of variants and props to get different styles of buttons. So to create this kind of design system, you can follow this design pattern. Dynamic styling based on props, as I'm always said. So if styles need to be changed based on the component props or state, for example changing the color based on the active state or deactive state, you can use this design pattern very easily. To maintain the consistent styling across components, when you want to share a common style configuration across different components while still allowing for customization, you can follow this design pattern. For example, let's say you have to create multiple set of buttons, right? You can keep the radius of the button same, and meanwhile you can change the color of the button. So the base style is consistent, and you can specifically customize some specific cases based on your requirement. Same with the style inheritance. So in this use case also, you can propagate share style while enabling adjustment on each level. And let's move to the advantages of this extensible style pattern. It facilitates the customization of style extension without modifying the component source code, and the visual consistency, as I mentioned earlier, and also easy to maintain the code because we are separate the styling logic and the component logic with this design pattern. Almost all these design patterns have disadvantages as well. So disadvantages of this design pattern is it requires careful design of style names and design tokens to be able to extend in a predictable manner. So for example, you can add different names for your prop values, right? You can't add like, background 1, background color 2. You have to come up with some proper names for your prop values or your class names to use this style in a proper way. You can add, for example, in popular design systems, we use different kind of variants like default, primary, secondary, danger, those kind of things. So before implementing the code, you have to go some thorough understanding on naming different styles if you want to extend this design pattern in your system. And also it can increase the complexity if not managed properly. And if you are using a simple app, you don't have to use this. Extensive style pattern might introduce unnecessary complexity if you are adding it to a simple app. And also if you want to do static styling, one line directly, static styling without dynamic stylings, you don't have to use this design pattern at all. Let's move to the key concepts of this design pattern. There are three main key concepts of the design pattern. It's base styles, extended styles, and the merging styles together. If we move to the base styles, this base styles is an object that includes default styles for the component, right? This acts as the foundation for any further style customization. So that's the base of your base styles of your component. And then we have extending styles, right? So we can use JavaScript to extend or override the base styles. So you can create a variation based on conditions such as props, state, or other component specific factors. So this is where we modify our base styles. In here you can see I have used ternary operators, but in a huge system this section will be much complex. You can use functions, JavaScript functions defined somewhere else in the project, and this extending styles based on props or based on other hooks values or based on the state. So this can be a complex, but this is also the second stage when you are following this design pattern. And the last stage is the merging styles together. So in here, so I have used spread operator. So what we do in this stage is combining the multiple style objects together. So we often use object.assign or a spread operator to apply both base and the conditional styles. As I said, this merging state can also be very complex in huge systems like Material UI or Radix UI design systems. They can follow different methods to do this, but at the end that's a merging step. So we have base styles, extending this base styles, and then merging the styles together to represent in the final output. So these are the key concepts of this extended styles design pattern. Here are the key concepts I mentioned: base style, extending styles, the conditional styles as well, and the styles merging. Conditional styles means using these ternary operators. Merging means we merge into a final output. Let's move to the example codes. In here I have used the design pattern to create some button components and button variations. So if you have a look, I have rendered two buttons with two different sizes and two colors, but I have used the same component but different props here. If we move to the implementation of this button component, you can see how I have used it. In here you can see I am passing all these prop values from here. Based on the prop values, I am creating a single class name. So here the class name consists with button and the color we send. It should be blue in the first one and the red in the second one, and the size. The medium is the default value, and you can have small or large or anything. And based on these prop values, I am creating the final button classes and pass it to the final component here. And also you can see I have used this CSS style here, modules here, and in this module I have added all the styles related to all the prop values. So styles related to blue color, red color, green color, styles related to different sizes, everything is defined in this button.module.css, and I have imported in the inside the implementation of this button.tsx value. In here this button is the base values, so it has all the base styles here. These values, color, size, these are the variant styles based on the prop values. It generates different mods of the same button. Now let's move to an advanced use case. So if we have a look at this Radix design system, so this is a very popular design system which is used in production level by multiple companies, and here you can see you can pass different size values, variants, and so on. So let's have a look at the implementation of this Radix button. So this is very complex, right? But the key concepts are the same. So if we have a look in the button.tsx in here, so this is the component that we are using in Radix design system in here, and you can see the prop values. There are 281 props, right? So all these prop values are passed to this button, and it is passed to a base button here. So if we have a look at the implementation of the base button, in this section it does all the calculations, it does all the modifications and converting everything as suitable for the representation. So it adds some default classes here, and also it generates some class names. So this seems to be very complex, but this follows the same set of concepts: base styles, modifying and merging. So instead of ternary operators and stuff, it used some inbuilt classes, inbuilt functions to do these modifications. So if you have a look at the end, it creates a set of class names in here. Let's say RT reset, RT base button, and class name here. It's the class name and the size based on the props. And if we have a look at the CSS file, it has all these design implementations for the button class. So the difference is, in our case, we directly use this, this size, we directly used it. If it's a variant soft, we directly used it as a class name. But here they have gone through some functions, and they have some of them are transferred into these kind of specific class names through functions and stuff, but the base concepts are the same. So it's same with this material UI design pattern also. Here it also get these classes based on the different states and default state, default prop values and stuff, and then they generate the final class names based on our prop values. So this is another advanced use case that you can follow through. And since you know these concepts now, since you know this design pattern and stuff, how they are being implemented, and it's easy for you to understand these kind of large code bases, since you know these core concepts and core design patterns. So I think you learned something out of this lecture, and make sure you comment, and if you have any questions, please do comment and let's discuss them on the comment section. And make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and drop a thumbs up if you like this kind of videos.